I've worked the night shift at hospitals for most of my adult life. You see a lot. You hear more. But I've only ever run out of a hospital wing once. It was supposed to be abandoned. No lights, no patients, no phones. But that night, one of those phones rang, and something on the other end told me to run. I never planned on working in hospitals. It just kind of happened. One temp job led to another until I found myself as a full-time transporter, the person who moves patients from one department to another, takes specimens to the lab, and helps get the deceased down to the morgue. Unofficially, we're the ones who do all the things nobody else wants to do at night. The job came with long shifts, short breaks, bad coffee, and worse lighting. But the pay wasn't terrible. And after a few years, you stop noticing the things that used to bother you, like the old fluorescent lights that hum too loud, or the elevators that take forever and creak like they're in pain. By year 6, I was used to the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift. You start to recognize patterns, where the nurses sneak off to nap, which floors are haunted by certain smells, and which parts of the hospital are best avoided after 3 a.m. Which brings me to the West Wing. It was part of the original hospital, built back in the late 1920s. Red brick, narrow corridors, lower ceilings, that old disinfectant and death smell that never really goes away. Rumor was it used to be a psych wing before they turned it into overflow patient rooms in the 90s. By the time I started, the entire West Wing had been shut down, technically condemned, though I'm not sure the hospital ever made that official. We were told it had asbestos and structural issues, but everyone knew the real reason we stayed out of there. Strange things happened in that wing. People heard voices. Doors opened and shut on their own. Motion sensors picked up figures in the hallway. One nurse swore she saw a woman in an old-fashioned hospital gown standing at the window of room 614, on a floor that hadn't been occupied in years. Even security refused to do patrols up there alone. So we didn't go. Until one night, we had to. It was a slow night. Late January, snow outside, ice everywhere. The ER was dead. Half the rooms were empty. Just 3 of us in the transport office. Me, Lauren, and a new guy named Derek. Fresh hire 2 weeks in. Still had that wide-eyed optimism that hadn't yet been crushed by night shift fatigue. I was on my second cup of vending machine coffee, reading an old Stephen King paperback, when the intercom crackled to life. Transport to room 615, 6th floor. Repeat, transport needed to room 615. I didn't even lift my head at first. Then I froze. 615? I looked over at Lauren. She was already staring at me, eyebrows raised. "Did I hear that right?" I asked. She nodded slowly. 615. "That's not," I trailed off. Derek blinked. "What's the big deal?" Lauren turned to him. 615 is in the West Wing. That entire floor's been shut down for years. Derek frowned. Maybe they meant 515. "No," I said. "They repeated it. 6th floor, 615. We waited for someone to correct it. No one did. Lauren picked up the line and called the main desk. "Hey, who paged transport to 615? She asked. A long pause. "No one?" Her face went pale. "Are you sure?" Another pause. Then she slowly hung up the phone. "They didn't send that page," she said quietly. "It didn't come from them. We checked the digital page system. There was no record of it. None." That was the first time I got that deep, cold feeling in my chest. The kind you don't shake off with a sip of hot coffee. But it wasn't the last. Because right then, the nurse's station phone rang. It was one of those old beige landline phones mounted to the wall. The kind you hardly see anymore unless you're in a place that refuses to update anything. It shouldn't have even worked. Most of them had been removed. Lauren picked it up. "Transport office?" she said, then paused. Her face changed. Slowly. Her eyes narrowed, then widened. She looked at me and mouthed, "Room 614. I stood up. Lauren whispered, "This is hospital name. Hello?" Then she froze. Her lips parted like she was going to say more. And the line went dead. "What was that?" I asked. She didn't answer immediately. Then she said, "The caller ID showed room 614. I blinked. "That's next door to 615. I know, she whispered. Derek tried to laugh it off. It's probably a glitch. Systems cross-wired. Lauren shook her head. No, that wing's been disconnected. No phones, no electricity, no nothing. I told myself it had to be a mistake. Some kind of leftover connection. Static. A relay bounce. But something in me didn't believe that. And even though I knew better, I had to see for myself. So I told them I was going up there. Derek said, "You're not going alone." We took the north elevator, the only one that still reached the upper west wing without a badge override. It was slow and loud, and you could feel every floor thudding beneath your feet. When we reached 6, the doors opened with a reluctant groan. It was pitch black. The hallway stretched in front of us like a throat. Dry, quiet, cold. Even with my flashlight, visibility was limited. Dust particles floated in the beam. Ceiling tiles hung loose or missing. Paint peeled from the walls in long strips. The air was wrong. It felt thick, heavy, stagnant, like something hadn't breathed in that hallway for years. The west wing had 2 rows of rooms, odd numbers on the left, even on the right. Each door had a small frosted window and a faded metal number plate. We passed 609, 611, 613, and then we saw it. Room 614. The door was slightly open. I raised the flashlight and shined it through the gap. Nothing. Darkness. I stepped forward. "Don't," Derek whispered behind me. I pushed the door open. The flashlight revealed an empty hospital room, bed removed, cabinets open, floor tiles cracked. But something stood out immediately. A phone. Mounted to the wall by the door. Intact, beige, plugged in. I turned to Derek. "That's impossible," he said. And then, it rang. The sound nearly stopped my heart. It was so loud in that quiet space. The harsh, shrill tring of the old phone echoing down the empty corridor. I reached out and picked it up. "Hello?" I said. There was static. Then, whispers. Garbled, like someone talking underwater. Indistinct. Male? Female? I couldn't tell. I swallowed hard. "Who is this?" Silence. Then, one word. Clear. Calm. Cold. "Run." The line went dead. So did my flashlight, and I listened. I don't remember running out of that room. I remember the sensation of moving, of grabbing Derek, of the flashlight flickering on long enough to light the hallway. I remember hearing the phone ring again behind us as we ran. We didn't wait for the elevator. We took the stairs. All 6 flights. Bursting out on the ground floor, like we'd been underwater, and finally found air. Lauren was still in the transport office. She saw us and stood up so fast her chair fell backward. "You guys look like you saw a ghost," she said. I nodded. "We heard one." The next morning, we filed an incident report. Security went up to investigate. They found the door to 614 open, no phone, not even a wall port, no evidence it had ever been mounted there. We checked the digital page log again, still no record of the 615 call. Electrical swore that the 6th floor in the west wing had no active lines, no power, no way anything could have made a call, let alone show up on our internal system. I talked to an older nurse who'd been around since the 80s. She looked pale when I mentioned room 614. "That's where the woman jumped," she said. "What woman?" "Psych patient. Back when it was still mental health. Slit her wrists, then jumped from the window. They say she still wanders that floor." I stopped working night shift not long after that. I told myself it was because of the hours, the stress. But the truth is, I couldn't stop hearing that word in my head. Run. I still work in healthcare, but at a different hospital now. But sometimes, when it's quiet, when the hallway's too still, I think I hear a phone ring. Faint. Just once. From a room that shouldn't exist. I've heard a lot of strange things during night shifts. But nothing like this. And no matter how many times I try to explain it away, I still can't. If you've ever experienced something terrifying on a night shift, or anywhere else, I'd love to hear it. Drop your true scary story in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this story gave you chills, like the video, subscribe for more true horror stories every week, and share it with someone who thinks they're brave enough to answer a phone call from the dark. Thanks for listening, and remember, if a phone rings from a room that shouldn't have one, don't answer it.